This week we are going to start a little bit of knife training. I always start this type of training by looking at how to handle the weapon, because if you don't understand the weapon, you can definitely not imagine how to deal with it. And a lot of people think they can deal with the knife because they've got some form of martial arts training. But if they don't understand how to actually use the knife, then they don't have a real fear for this brutal weapon. Now, understand, this is a rubber one, so it's not really a brutal weapon. But you understand what I mean. Understand the weapon that you want to deal with first. If you want to do unarmed combat against someone threatening you with a pistol, and you've never shot before, don't do it. Don't train that. Go and study the weapon first, get proficient in that weapon, then come back and say, right, now I'm shit scared of this weapon. How could I possibly deal with it, even though I know that this is a terrible, terrible situation? So before you go, yeah, I know some karate and I can fight against a knife, then rather go and study how to use a knife first and get real scared of it, and then come back and go, right, so in a terrible situation, this is what might work for you to get away and get to a hospital. Right, so, but long story short, we're going to look at the bayonet grip first. Two grips, bayonet grip and the ice pick grip. A lot of controversy, discussions. People going, no, I'm right and whatever, between which grip is better. I personally believe it depends on the situation you're in. If it's, right, I'm going to fight now, right now, with this knife, there's no doubt about it, I'm not sneaking up on anyone, I've got distance, he's got a weapon, I've got a weapon, I'm not letting the pointy end show away from my opponent. I keep the pointy end at my opponent, there's distance, I'm going to use that to get to my opponent. If it's going to be, I'm sneaking up on someone for some reason, maybe you're a ninja, I don't know, then the ice pick grip is better, it's more concealed, and it's easy to very quickly be able to attack your opponent without them noticing the weapon too quickly, so it gives you that advantage of surprise. Secondly, if you are in close, if you're fighting close and you can pull your knife, let's say your knife was sheathed at the moment, but you're in a situation where there's no real distance. Maybe you land an elbow or something and it gives you that time to pull the knife out. This grip would be better. Because up close, there's more you can do with this than having a longer area here that can be controlled by your opponent. So here, I want to be in very close to my opponent, so I'm going to use the ice pick grip. Here, it's just my opinion, the bayonet grip wouldn't be as effective, although still devastating if you stick it into your opponent. But I hope you understand, that's my opinion between when you would use the ice pick grip or the bayonet grip. Right, so this week, bayonet grip. We have the weapon away from our opponent. I teach this with all the weapons that I teach. Do not go and stick the weapon out in your opponent's face and threaten them from here. There's no point behind that. Keep the weapon close to you. Have your shield out. Your opponent wants to deal with you. They've got to come through your shield. At this point, you can be grabbing, you can be stopping and blocking while attacking. So it gives you that barrier they need to get through before they can try and restrain your wrist. Okay, so left leg in front, left hand out as your shield, right hand back here. If your opponent has a weapon, then unlikely you would stand like this. Now pointing in close to your opponent, because now it's going to be knife to knife. We're assuming your opponent maybe doesn't have a knife, maybe they have a baseball bat. They broke into your house. Whatever the situation is, this is how you're going to use your knife. It is concealed either on your, or protected on your hip or your leg. There shouldn't be any gap to try and restrain this arm. Other hand in front of you. We do a sequence. This doesn't mean you have to do the full sequence. It's just like a little cut that you're learning. Step forward, cut 1 and 2. So we just draw a little X in front of us. Step forward, 1 and 2. Any cuts isn't meant for the upper body. It's meant for the limbs. So, 1 and 2. We go again, 1 and 2. Why for the limbs? Because we want to get through our opponent's guard. We want to break through their guard. What better way than to take pieces out of their arms and make them bleed? So 1 and 2. Simple enough. The next movement, coming up and up, can be seen as a sneaky attack, cutting at the underside of my opponent's arm. So I'm coming up, up. We do again, I'm taking from my hip, up and up. Alternatively, you can look at it as I was slicing and my opponent grabbed my arm. For some reason, my opponent's super fast. I was very slow. My opponent grabbed the arm. Best way to get out of it, rotate the wrist up and break out against your opponent's grip. So we look at it again. We're doing all 4 now. We're going down, down. We're going up, up. The last 2, either cutting from underneath up against my opponent's limbs, or my opponent grabbed the wrists and I need to break out of that grip. We go again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, pointy end is at your opponent. You don't slice up and then wave the tip of the knife somewhere else. It stays pointing at your opponent. So we use that and we stab. And we're stabbing at the neck. 1. Then we twist the knife and we cut through the throat and stab to the other side of the neck and come back. Let's add that again. So, partly what I want you to see here is don't go fighting someone with a knife with empty hands. So if you can go, oh, this is disgusting, this is brutal, this is not nice, that's mission achieved. Don't go fighting someone who has a knife. So we go again. 1, 2, up, up, stab. A quick stab at the neck, and then twist the wrist and slice through across the throat, stab to the other side, and come back. Right, let's look at that again. We go down, down, up, up, stab, slice, stab, slice, and then from here we're doing a big loop. Again, this is more meant for someone that has now restrained your arm with both their arms. So this calls for a bigger movement of yours. So both arms here, obviously you're now hitting them and you rotate the arm and you come up. You are breaking out of that grip and then immediately cutting down. Whatever's in the way you want to connect with. It's not a killing blow, but it is something to make your opponent back off. Your wrist has been seized with both the arms. You are hitting them, you are pulling up and cutting down. Again, notice when I'm pulling up, the pointy end still pointing at my opponent. At no point am I doing anything where the tip of the knife is pointing anywhere else but the person I'm now fighting against. So we go again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Big movement up. Chop down. Watch. Hand is back into a protected position here, close to my body. Now we start the techniques meant for the upper body. And plain and simple, that's stabbing. No cutting necessary here. Stabbing. So I'm hitting in and up. Why? I'm trying to go for the abdomen and then up underneath my opponent's shield of muscles and bone. So from here, that last part's going in and up. And that doesn't happen once. That would happen a couple of times. And then as a finishing movement, like an afterthought, just so that you remember you can use the back of the knife as well. Not that that is your primary thing that you focus on. But if you need to, if the pointy end is pointing away from your opponent, smash them and then continue cutting at your opponent. But remember that you can use that if the need really arises as a hammer strike to the skull. Right, so let's look at the whole movement one last time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2. Right. What I would suggest, go practice that first. Get yourself a rubber knife, maybe against a punching bag, and get used to how the knife can be wielded from a lot of different angles and directions, and how easy it is to break out of various grips so that you can be sufficiently scared of this weapon by the time we start defending against it.